So the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is an interesting gaming device. It's a big handheld, and this version is a redemption from the previous MSI Claw, which is not a great device. While most mainstream handhelds from the Steam Deck to the Legion Go run AMD's custom APUs, the Claw 8 AI Plus on the other hand is powered by Intel's new Core Ultra processor. This makes it one of the very few devices powered by Intel's hybrid mobile chips with integrated ARC graphics. On paper, this should offer better AI integration and competitive gaming performance, but whether that translates into real-world gains is a different story entirely. So I've been testing out this handheld for a week now, and I got to say I really like this device. In this video, I won't be comparing it to the old MSI Claw, but with other handhelds on the market. The good news is that the Claw 8 AI Plus is significantly better than the original, with a new CPU, new GPU and better battery. MSI has produced a handheld that not only crushes Valve's upgraded Steam Deck on gaming performance, but it's up there with the best of its Windows-based devices. Design-wise, the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is a large device with an 8-inch IPS LCD touchscreen. With only 500 nits brightness, it's not as bright as other OLED devices like the Steam Deck, but content is still viewable and I personally have no problem with that. The display provides an overall experience compared to the 7-inch touchscreen, like on the Ally X, which may be hard for me to go back to after testing this. The screen has a 120Hz refresh rate with variable refresh rate, which makes gaming smooth, especially when playing games that support it. The MSI Claw is a powerful gaming handheld, and with its two-tone design, it's not going to appeal to everyone. The black and grey design is different from the slew of black devices we see often, and the screen takes up most of the space anyway. On top, you get two Thunderbolt 4 ports that can be used for docking or charging another device. Next to the two physical volume buttons, there is a micro SD slot and a 3.5mm audio jack. Most of the top is taken up by the exhaust fans for the cooling system, which does a surprisingly good job for keeping the handheld cool while not toasting your fingerprints. The whole effect joysticks and the triggers are responsive and feel awesome. The overall ergonomics performance is good. The triggers are easily reached even with the device's design. The ABXY buttons and the joysticks have RGB lighting around them, which can be turned off to save battery life, but it's really nice that the buttons are backlit when most handhelds don't. The two back buttons are in a decent place and can be easily reached, but I wish the grips had a little more texture for easy holding. The speaker system is loud enough and manages not to sound so thin, which is really all you need when you're probably going to be using headphones most of the times anyway. The MSI Claw has an 80-watt battery, which is an improvement from the previous version. The device comes with a 32 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, up to 1 terabyte compared to the 16 gigs of RAM on the previous MSI Claw. With an improved Intel Arc processor, expect good performance when playing intensive games like Elden Ring, Expedition 33 and Cyberpunk 2077. So how does the MSI Claw AI Plus perform in gaming? Every single game I played, I had no issues. From games like The Last of Us getting anywhere between 37 to 57 FPS on a high preset with a ZSS enabled, to lighter games like Hades 2 with V-Sync unlocked. We know the MSI Claw has a powerful processor, better GPU and RAM, so running these games should be easy. Spider-Man Miles Morales managed anywhere between 50 to 80 FPS using the medium settings, while the Steam Deck OLED could manage an average of 28 FPS and the Legion Go only got 13 FPS. Cyberpunk 2077 ran at 55 FPS with the ZSS on while using the Steam Deck preset, but with a native resolution, which is impressive since most gaming handhelds get around 30 FPS here. I also tested Cyberpunk 2077 at 720p to see how it stacks up against the Steam Deck OLED. The MSI Claw got 81 FPS here versus 30 FPS on the Steam Deck OLED. That's almost 3 times the performance, making the MSI Claw the place to play one of this generation's most demanding titles. Next up we have Elden Ring. It was running at medium settings at 800p, which is decent. I was getting between 57 to 65 FPS. Black Ops 6 runs better than expected on the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. I got around 80 FPS at 1080p using low settings. When I switched to medium settings, the frame rate dropped slightly at about 58 FPS, but it was still a smooth playground. The MSI Claw won't run everything. Monster Hunter World's Benchmark 2 returned a low frame rate of 27 FPS on minimum settings and ultra performance level FSR upscaling. Yet it does make it a clear up on the Steam Deck by handling games that aren't quite feasible on Valve's handheld. However, it does perform better than the Steam Deck in some demanding games. Space Marine 2, for example, couldn't reach a steady 30 FPS on the Steam Deck, but on the MSI Claw 8 Plus, I was getting around 30 to 40 FPS on no settings, with FSR set to performance. Horizon Forbidden West is also a tough one to run. On the Steam Deck, it only gets close to being playable with ultra performance upscaling. On the Claw 8 AI Plus, even with FSR turned on, it still dropped below 30 FPS, but overall, the experience was slightly better than on the Steam Deck. Battery life on the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is a selling point. With an 80-watt battery, I was getting around 2 hours during extensive games, which is 40% better than the original Claw. I ran Red Dead Redemption 2 at 80 watts, but I was getting around 30 FPS, which is crazy for a handheld like this. I always stress about battery life on other handhelds like the Legion Go, but on the MSI Claw, it is really damn impressive. One of the things that continues to be an issue with most Windows-based handhelds is Windows itself. Handhelds are essentially devices where manufacturers try to make Windows behave more like a game console. MSI's effort is called Center M, and it consists of a dashboard that takes over the desktop and a quick menu that pops up as an overlay to change the settings on the fly. It's also fairly bare bones, which I actually prefer and will be okay if the program did glitch out at times. I haven't had any major issues with the main software on the MSI Claw, but the Center M button occasionally stopped working. I had to reset the device to get it working again. The game bar quick menu was more problematic. Sometimes it didn't respond to the button press at all, or it would lag several seconds before reacting. When it did work perfectly, it was useful, letting me change settings on the fly or turn on performance overlay without much effort. It's important to note that these kinds of issues aren't unique to the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. Every handheld running Windows has similar problems. None of the current manufacturers have managed to offer the smooth, consistent experience that SteamOS provides. Maybe the upcoming Xbox handheld will be the first one to get it right. Now, the AI stuff. Since it's in the name, the AI engine is convenient. It automatically configures the TDP depending on the game you are playing. This means you won't be able to constantly adjust the TDP while playing, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Personally, I would like to manually set my TDP when playing games. I have pressed the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus, but there are some issues, starting with the price. It launched in January at $900 and it's also available through the MSI site, Best Buy and Amazon. Stock has been inconsistent, so you might have to wait if it's sold out. Since launch, the price has climbed to around $1,000, likely due to US tariffs. That puts it above the Ally X, which is around $800. Compared to the Steam Deck OLED, which starts around $550, the Claw 8 AI Plus feels like a harder sell. You're almost paying double for a device that still suffers from typical Windows handheld issues and lacks the polish of SteamOS. So, should you buy the MSI Claw AI Plus if you want the most powerful gaming handheld available that runs demanding games like Elden Ring and Cyberpunk 2077, and you want your handheld running Windows? The MSI Claw is for you. However, if you have smaller hands and you want better value proposition with a handheld with an OLED screen, the MSI Claw isn't for you. One of the problems with gaming handhelds is that they all end up being compared to the Steam Deck, which was fair enough when the market was still small, but now they are a ton of Windows-based handhelds. Then the comparisons always end up with, the hardware is awesome, but Windows is not, tainting every bit of performance analysis. I think it's time for this to stop. The MSI Claw AI Plus is the best Windows gaming handheld I've ever tested. It might be a little rough around the edges, but in terms of raw gaming performance, it's right near the top. Intel's Arc GPU drivers keep improving all the time, and there's probably a bit more left in the tank for this handheld in the coming updates. The only issue for me is the value proposition. The MSRP is high, and while the gaming performance is undoubtedly good, people are already avoiding the Ally X because of the MSRP. Though, as the only premium gaming PC handheld, that isn't relying on overseas customers' support. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Catch you in the next video.